Hello everyone, what's happening? This is Forgo, and today I'm going to try to provide you guys with some insight on what imprint stones you should pick depending on what you're trying to achieve in the game from this bingo. Now you're going to get 2 of these things, and I'm just going to run through each of these things and try to give you an idea of where they could be useful and maybe what character you could put them on. So this first stone here increases attack, decreases burn, poison, and bleed. This is really going to be a PvP stone, to be perfectly honest. Decreasing burn, poison, and bleed. It could be useful for PvE, but honestly, this is a stone that I would not invest in at all. You're just not going to benefit that much from it. You'll get extra attack, but honestly, considering all the resources that you have to put into these stones, to me, this one just isn't worth picking up at all. Now, this stone here is actually very interesting because it increases attack and HP by 2%, and it also recovers HP by 4% upon landing an active skill as a critical hit when HP is 70% or less. So it's really powerful when HP is 70% less as far as the heal every 15 seconds. The thing about this stone that makes it very useful is for the Immortal Vulcan boss, he's actually susceptible to whenever you're recovering. You actually decrease his damage received when you're healing. So if you put this stone on a character that you're using in the Immortal Vulcan, which by the way is weak to blue characters, then like for example, like Leona, she already has heals, but you can put it on another character that maybe might buff her, like maybe Rio with his leadership. You can put it on him, can increase his attack, and give him a heal because he doesn't have a native heal. And that would really help your damage in Immortal Vulcan. You could also put it on other characters like Leona. You could put it on Shizuru, Swimsuit Shizuru. Those are characters that you would use in that. If you're having troubles with it, maybe this would be a good stone to put on them because you will get this recovery. This next stone here is increased defenses by 3%, increased strike skill damage. It's an okay stone. It's a decent stone for defensive characters because it can bump up their defense. But the truth is, there's just better stones than this. I don't think it's a decent stone, but I don't think it's a stone really worth investing in my opinion. The next one here is increase HP and remove the enemy's power by 2% upon landing an active skill. Well, the thing about this stone is, this is a good stone for PvP. And that's about it. But currently, right now in the game, and I should have stated this at the beginning of this video, is if Championship allows imprint stones every 6 weeks, 2 months. It's not very often, honestly, and a lot of players don't even play that week because it's completely unfair. You know, people can just wail out. They don't have to be very good players, and they just have OP freaking imprint stones on their characters and just boom, 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 plow through everybody, and they're in the top ranks because they just wailed out. Not really because of skill or because they're really good players. Not to take anything from anybody that does use imprint stones and are skill players, because those are out there as well. But we all know there are players that really aren't that skilled, but they're just whales, and they buy these stones so they can jump up in the ranks. But it's only really for that 1 week. If it's worth it to you, if you're trying to improve your PvP, you're trying to get better in Championship for that 1 week out of every 6 weeks or 2 months, then yeah, I'd say this stone would be worth picking up. But really, when it comes to stones, for me, PvE content is really where it's at. And as far as like League and Infinite Battle, your imprint stones will still be applicable. So I would just really do that. This stone I would not buy at all. You can see that I have 8 of them, and I'll probably never level them up, ever. I got 11 of these. I'll never level them up. I do use these stones a little bit. This stone here increases penetration and reflect damage. Well, this is a decent stone again for PvP. But again, I base, the stones on PvE content because I really think that's where they're the most useful, because you just don't get to use these that much in Championship, and I don't want us to be able to use these that much in Championship. That's extremely unfair. I don't want to see it. But if you're trying to improve your PvP, then yeah, this would be a decent stone to put on, especially with a character that has lots of penetration. Maybe someone like Pretty Zero, or maybe even Iori, although a lot of people aren't going to use Iori in Championship anymore. Then you have increased penetration, increased burn, poison, and bleed. It's a good stone for characters that want to increase that burn, poison, and bleed. Here's the problem, guys. We have other stones in the game that we get from Immortal Dungeons and we get from Immortal Most and Typhoon and all these, where you can get 3 different stats. You can get increased attack by 12% when the stone's at level 10 for a defensive character or for an attack character. Then you can get bleed and you can get HP. You're getting 3 separate stats. So when I look at this kind of stone, I think, yeah, it's a decent stone, but honestly, I just think there's other options that are just better than this, in my opinion. This stone here is exactly like what I said earlier for like maybe your blue team for against Immortal Vulcan with the heals, because this stone gives you a heal for 7 seconds upon using an awakened skill. So every time you use an awakened skill, you're going to get a heal, and every time you get that heal, you're going to decrease the damage received. Well, you're actually going to increase the damage received to Immortal Vulcan. So it's actually going to help your damage. So this stone here and this stone here are actually really good for that dungeon. Now, do you want to get a stone that's only going to be good for that one game mode? Yeah, another PvE content having recovery is nice, but you'll find with a lot of the Fest characters that it's not too vital. It really isn't, and I think you'd be better off just putting other stones on them. But for Immortal Vulcan, it really would be a good set. So, and as far as Leona, like say, Fest Leona 12, she's terrific for that thing. And you're only going to use her in Reviving Hell's Dungeon because you need a blue defensive team. So I actually think like having these recovery stones, maybe on a character like that, might be a good idea. Although I want to try to get the highest score I can without using those kinds of stones and try to use other stones that I think would be better throughout the game. This stone here, increased defenses, decreased strike. Honestly, guys, it's really just a PvP stone. I don't think it's really that good or really even that relevant. Now, this stone here, this is the OP Omega stone from all of these. In my opinion, this is the best stone, period, in this. It is the best stone because it has an OP effect. When this stone is completely leveled up, it has an increased power charge rate of 8%. When it's at level 10, 8%. And PG rate is where it's at for all the Immortals except for Immortal Victor. Immortal Victor is about PG gain, and we already have Rio sets to acquire that PG gain. But PG rate is very, very important. So if you're trying to get your specials off more often throughout Immortal Dungeons, then the PG rate stone is the way to go. And I really think this should be your number 1 stone that you should pick, in my opinion. Plus, you're also going to gain power by 1% every 1 second for 10 seconds upon using an awakened skill. Think about that. And this is going to go up when it's at level 10. You are going to gain a lot of PG gain from having this stone. I have this thing on my nameless, and it is bonkers. And it makes a lot of difference in damage because every time you're doing your ultimate skill, and by the way, just a little tidbit, you really should put this stone on a character that doesn't have PG gain, like The Rock, or PG rate, like The Rock, Harumaru, characters like that you're going to use that have long ultimate skills that you can use in the Immortal Dungeons, but don't have really any PG gain, or they have a little bit of PG gain, and you just want to give them that much more. You can put it on Gentoki. That would be insane on him because he already has 15% PG rate from his core. I mean, that's something to think about. You could put this stone on Fest K, who's absolutely insane for those Immortal Dungeons because of his leadership, because of his long ultimate skill. I mean, this is a fantastic. In my opinion, guys, this is the number 1 stone that you should pick, in my opinion. They're very hard, very rare to come by, and I think this is a golden opportunity to get this thing. The next one, increased attack, decreased damage received. It's a good stone for PvP, pretty much. So you want to put it on your PvP characters. This stone here, this is actually a really good stone, but I really think it's just mainly going to be for PvP. This goes up to 1 second, I believe, when it's at level 10. Decrease your active skill cooldowns by 1 second. So characters that have low cooldowns, I mean, seriously, guys, like on Mr. Karate, Nameless, Genitz, I mean, those characters that have those low cooldowns, this is bonko. It is bonko on them, but really for PvP, not for PvE. and then you have another healing stone. So you have 3 different healing stones. And again, these healing stones are amazing for your blue characters or characters that just aren't green, because green will have the disadvantage against Immortal Vulcan, for your heals. However, I'm going to end up making another video about what characters you should put certain imprint stones on, but I'm really just trying to gather information because there's so many characters, there's so many different game modes, and I want to try to set it up to where you can put a certain imprint stone on a character and you never have to unequip it. That's the stone you should always have on them, so you don't have to unequip it, so you don't have to worry about getting in stupid unpairing kits. But it's a lot of information that I got to really go over. And then here, you get the increased HP, increased damage dealt to balance and defense. Again, it's a decent stone and really could be good because some of the immortal dungeons are defensive. But it's not a stone I would pick up. Honestly, guys, I wouldn't pick this up. I really think those stones that I mentioned earlier, the gold imprint stones, are just better. They're just better. That PG rate stone is really the one where it's at. Now, this stone is actually a very good stone. Decrease the enemy's defenses by 8%. This goes up to 20% for 4 seconds by landing an active skill. This is a really good stone for the Immortal Dungeons because a lot of them are defensive characters, and it wouldn't matter if they're defensive or not because it does decrease their defenses. It does work in there. I have tested it, but I don't think it works as well as what I would hope. Now, in PvP, this stone is amazing. It is amazing. But again, PvP, you play 1 week out of 6 weeks to 2 months where imprint stones are allowed. And again, a lot of people don't play in it. So, but I do think it is a good stone. If you feel like you don't need the PG rate, maybe that would be a good stone to go with. And this stone here is really just a PvP stone. Now, it could be used in PvE because you do get, you have a 10% chance against super armor, like a character like, say, for Ashe. Because of Ashe's leadership, the increased attack, and the 20% PG rate, maybe you'd use them as leadership in the Immortal Dungeons. And maybe you'd want to have that extra super armor. You just put a KS set on them and maybe get this super armor every once in a while so the skills don't get interrupted. But honestly, guys, this is really just a PvP stone. So my recommendation is actually pretty simple and pretty straightforward. It is this stone. I think that you're going to be better off picking up this damn PG rate stone more than any of them. It will help you so much in those Immortal Dungeons. But before you equip it on another character, you either wait for a video that I'll make in the future, or make sure you put it on a character that you're going to use multiple times in those Immortal Dungeons. A character like Feske, a character like Nameless. You don't want to put it on a character like Guinness, who already has 30% PG rate. You don't want to do that. Characters that have 30% PG rate, like Mr. Karate, Guinness, it's just, they don't really need it. They don't really need it. As long as they got that 20% PG rate leadership, they don't need it, man. They're going to build up their PG fast enough. So put it on a character that has that 15% PG rate in their core, or they have no PG rate. And just real quickly to show you what I'm talking about, in case you don't know. So like my Nameless, he has one of these stones on him. And I put it on him because, one, he has long ultimate skill, and he has 15% PG rate. So with the 15% PG rate, plus the 20% PG rate leadership, that's 35%, plus 8%, that's 43% PG rate. He builds up his 3 PG super, super fast. But a character like Mr. Karate, who has 30% PG rate in a 3 PG card, I just wouldn't recommend putting it on him. I think he'd actually be wasting. I think he'd be better off slapping a different imprint stone in here. And I'll go into further detail in another video. But, a character like Xion. Xion's a character that you're going to use in the Immortal Dungeons. But Xion has no PG rate. Has a leadership, but this would be another character that you could put that on because you're going to use Xion and against the Immortal Most for sure because of the shock explosion. Because he's a yellow fighter, he'll have the advantage. And you can use him against other world bosses as well to buff up your yellow characters, like maybe Orochiori, maybe Pretty Z. But I'm going to make a more detailed video about who to put imprint stones on in the future. But I really need to gather up more information before I can really give you an accurate detailed description of who you should put them on. Fesque, I think, would be an excellent choice to put one of those PG rate stones on. He does have 15% PG rate, but guys, seriously, he's got his 5 PG is insanely long. He's terrific for those immortal dungeons, and that's really where you want that PG rate stone to come in effect. So hopefully this will help some of you out there as far as which stone to pick up from the bingo. So let me know what characters you've gotten, what cards you've gotten, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.